The second night of the Republican convention sought to cast the country in a more positive light compared to the bleak outlook presented to viewers Monday night should Democratic candidate Joe Biden win the election. With just over 2 months until the November face-off between the two candidates, President Trump's most ardent supporters reminded viewers of what the president has accomplished over the past 4 years and what he would continue to do if reelected. But several of those speeches are facing criticism for appearing to present misleading or exaggerated assertions in order to promote the commander-in-chief. Let's bring in Lynda Tran and Leslie Sanchez to take a closer look at what else unfolded last night. So, Lynda, you are a CBS News political contributor and a Democratic strategist, and Leslie, you are a CBS News political analyst and a Republican strategist. So, as both of you know, let me begin with you, Leslie. The Republican Party did not vote on a new platform this year, but last night's programming gave us a closer look at what the president and the GOP stand for. So, Leslie, what did we hear in terms of what has changed in the party and what's remained the same? And are we still under the assumption, given that there is no official platform this year, that it's whatever the president of the United States says it is?
It definitely is, but there's no doubt this is now the Trump Republican Party. And they basically said, look, we are rubber stamping the same platform from 2016 and moving it forward. Issues of immigration, issues of protecting life and the sanctity of life, issues on economic security, meaning reducing taxes, reducing federal regulation. Those elements have not changed. What they have done is do what we anticipated last week. They brought out a lot of the Trump family in the last couple of days to tell a kind of an insider look of not only the president, but their father, their spouse, the head of their family, and gave a different type of perspective that we don't often see. I think that was extremely effective. But the party, in terms of coming together behind what the president's doing, their look and their criticisms on China and that international perspective, all of those elements were in line, and we saw that last night.
Lynda, I want to bring up something that Vlad kind of talked about a little bit in the intro there that we heard last night from a number of speakers, some unfounded accusations about the Democratic ticket. We heard that there would be no room for people of faith, even though we know that Joe Biden's pretty proud of his faith. We heard about defunding the police, even though we know over and over again that Joe Biden has said that he's not interested in defunding the police. When I heard Eric Trump say that, I thought, we know that's not true. Everyone knows that that's not true. But then I thought it must be working. So who is listening to this? Who are they speaking to when they sort of throw out these suggestions about the Democratic ticket that are simply not true?
Well, I think, Anne-Marie, that's the conflict that you've seen in the message that they have been pushing forward, not only this week, but over the last several months. So on the one hand, I think that the Trump machine understands they need to broaden their appeal and broaden his support beyond his base. But they also feel like it's a surefire bet for them to really throw red meat and really double down on getting the folks that have been with Donald Trump since 2016 to get out and cast their ballots in 2020. That kind of, alternate reality, frankly, lying about the facts that we saw from the convention stage last night and that we saw the previous night as well, is just really on brand for them. They're trying to sort it out. Last night we also think that the remarks that they delivered were intended to reach out to communities of color and to connect with women voters that the Republican Party has been hemorrhaging since Donald Trump took office. But they cannot resist speaking to the base and trying to drum up folks with this misinformation.
Yeah, there was an interesting moment yesterday, Leslie, that I thought was sort of interesting. You had this lobsterman from Maine delivering a speech, and this was a portion of the convention that was meant to highlight, just ordinary folks talking about their support of the president. And this one Maine lobster fisherman said that the Obama administration closed off certain areas in and around Maine to commercial fishing. And then he went on to say, although Maine's lobstermen don't fish there, he thought that the executive order from President Obama greatly offended him. And that's why, he was throwing his support behind President Trump. It's interesting, as Lynda points out, that that they're going after some of the women who have not, let's face it, this president is not doing as well this time around with women as he did in the last election. So are these messages working if it's just a question of being against something because it was tied to President Obama, or in an attempt to sway women voters by having more women talking about what a great guy Donald Trump is?
I don't know if I agree with the great guy Donald Trump is, Vlad. I think a lot of women are like, wow, I don't know that that would be the category I would vote, another reason to vote for Donald Trump, but they do like the policy. They don't like the style, they like the policy, right? I think you're exactly right. If you look at the internal numbers in terms of what's happening here, there's not really a broad reach to those, independent voters, I think, at all. And you could say that he's going for some of those, you're alluding to, women that are voters that are hemorrhaging, the suburban moms. But what's happening are a couple of different things. This is the time when people start paying attention to the election. We know that, right? At convention, while we talk about it all the time and have for 18 months, this is when voters are really starting to tune in. And they're seeing what has the president accomplished and where is he moving forward. I think he's retelling that story. And I do believe it is being effective for a lot of Republicans who really are trying to sift through the noise. They are paying attention to the first time. The rise of Donald Trump is because of the frustration of a lot of the policies of the Obama administration. So that's why you see that issue in Maine. You're going to hear about issues that are going to appeal to voters in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, certainly Iowa. We heard that last night. This is a very strategic message to reignite the base, bring them back together, and get them focused on November. And honestly, for all of and even the attacks on the media, you heard that as well, for all of the criticism that you're hearing from Democrats and some of the media about the convention, I do believe at the end of the day it will be effective.
So, Lynda, before we let you go, I want to bring up a speech by former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi. She attacked Joe Biden and Hunter Biden basically along the lines of nepotism, accusing them of nepotism. It was an interesting line of attack because, as we know, the president's own family, his daughter and his son-in-law, very active within the administration. I'm curious your take on that line of criticism and why she brought it up.
Well, I think that what we're witnessing is that the Republican Party, the Trump machine, has run out of things to try and throw at Joe Biden, and so they're trying to rehash a line of attack that surfaced earlier this year. But as you point out, Anne Marie, it's not without irony. I mean, this is on the same night that several of his children spoke. It's during the week that several of his children spoke from government offices, and so the idea of nepotism really just hews to this theme of alternate reality that, as we were talking about, we've been seeing not only this week, but for the many months since Donald Trump took office and sent out Sean Spicer to tell us that the inauguration crowd was larger than what our own eyes told us there on the ground. So I think this is a continuation of that approach, that brand, and again, it's speaking to his base. We already know that Donald Trump's strategy for this election is to actually try to drive down turnout. That is why we're seeing this debate about the Postal Service and why we're seeing unprecedented attacks on that constitutionally mandated service to the American people. And so here again, he's trying to excite his base. He's trying to make sure they themselves cast their ballots, and he's going back to the one line of attack that he feels like is really appealing to them.
Yeah, Leslie, what do you think about that? You had Tiffany Trump there delivering her speech, and she said, as a recent graduate, I can relate to so many of you who might be looking for a job. This is the president's daughter saying that to the audience. Do you think that people can relate to Tiffany Trump?
It's a little bit of a stretch. There's no doubt she has a lot of privileges. I feel, well, she's not living at home. You can give her that. She can move into the White House, I guess, and like a lot of other families, and then she can feel our pain. But the reality is, it's interesting from her. She's a very different perspective. I thought her speech has grown a lot in maturity from what she was like in 2016, and that's definitely a benefit. There's a lot going on. I tell you, you start talking. It's what we're seeing just internally. I'll tell you, in focus groups and some of the polling that I'm seeing, even this morning, is people are starting to really pay attention, and they're concerned about Joe Biden. Before, if you'd asked me a few months ago, I'd said this is going to be a lot tighter. It will be tight, but this is right now when they're really starting to take a look at that, and that's why these positive kind of images and the First Lady kind of following the history of thanking for your loyalty, like other First Ladies have done, and sharing her message, they are going to be effective, and we'll see how that contrast falls out.
All right, Leslie Sanchez and Lynda Tran, thank you so much, ladies. It's important to point out to everyone that the kind of part of the point of these conventions is to raise the profile and the platform of one party and criticize the other party. And last week it was the Democrats, and we were equally as sort of critical in those conversations as well. But this is why it's really important to kind of dig deep. And here at CBSN, you can do that. CBSN will have full coverage of the Republican National Convention every day starting at 5 p.m. on Red and Blue. We'll take a look ahead at what you can expect for each day, and also we'll have in-depth analysis of the day's events every night.